We're back. Welcome to the Regular Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chapp, along with my other host. Well, I should just say host, Cindy Berry. Now,
Yeah, give me some
now,
cred, man.
Cindy, we because of administration changes and the new person in the White House, you're not a DEI hire no more.
I didn't know I was.
Well, whenever we put the podcast together, it said, "Does a woman appear on this podcast?" And I said, "Yes, a woman appears on this podcast," and we're the only Red Wings podcast where a woman appears on the podcast, besides Danella Bruce, who works with the Red Wings. Well, she works with Tigers too, and
Yeah.
she's also from the Anchor Bay area, and so something's in the water up
All the
there.
best women come from here because we're all hockey fans.
Something's in the water up there. There's
I know.
hockey going there and all that jazz. But
Yeah.
it's a fun time right now with October because,
Yeah.
well, not if you're a Michigan State football fan, but if you're a Michigan football
Oh,
fan,
stop. Did you
if you're
have to start it that way?
if you're a Lions fan, Tigers fans, Tigers just forced Game 5, so we're good there.
Yeah.
The Red Wings start tomorrow against the Montreal Canadiens. Pistons be starting pretty soon. The Lions are obviously Michigan football. All the stuff is happening at once. So we're all good. But we are talking Red Wings hockey because, listen, I think me and you share a mutual bond in the game of hockey. You come from a different perspective than I, but that's what makes this podcast great. It's not because, usually it's people that are in the podcast, it's like an echo chamber. Like they all say the same stuff. So that's what it is.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen here. And the reason why we come from completely different perspectives is because you're coming from that young millennial, how
Mm.
y'all, you're not a typical millennial though, so I can't quite roast you the way I want to, but millennials got a different perspective than us Gen Xers, you see. And we grew up when life was actually hard, and you guys, grew up when, so,
Everything
and
was
we
good.
knew
My fingers.
we lived through the Dead Wings. Okay,
Well,
we
yeah.
knew what that was all about. You guys only read about it, right?
Hmm. But I
And
think we went through a version of the Dead Wings recently, so it's all
that's
good.
true. You know what? Sadly, that is true. But this is an all new beginning, Joe. As you can see, I am repping my man Mo today. I don't know if you guys can see that. 53. I've got my little rally scarf here. That I got at the game, one of the games last
She
season.
she's
So
she's going all out, and I
I'm
think
going
this
all
is.
out.
I think you need to get the A on your sweater because if you didn't hear, Moritz Seider was named the alternate captain, and so was Lucas Raymond. And I said on the podcast page, I don't know if you've seen it, Cindy, you probably did, but I said, look, if there's anything that I don't want my captains to be like Andrew Kopp. Okay, I know Andrew Kopp's a good player, good veteran guy in the lineup,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he makes mistakes and he's not the guy that you count on. I want the guys that I count on, like Seider and Raymond, to be the alternate captains. And it's not because, they're just young kids that haven't earned it. I mean, Seider's obviously earned it. He's ranked the top 20 defenseman, depending on the publication you listen to. And then, Raymond, I think he hasn't even hit his ceiling yet. So that's why it's intriguing to see them get the alternates. And I always told people, we talked about this on the podcast last year, but I said, they needed a coaching change. Last year, I said that. I said, well, they needed a coaching change.
Yep.
They changed the coach around Christmas time. Happy Merry Christmas to me. I got to see, the big bald guy go away. And Todd McLellan came in. Now, I nicknamed him the Todd Father for 2 reasons, and 2 reasons only. He's got a very masculine voice, which, does carry weight. And he's got the salt and pepper hair. A lot of people talk about coaches. I envision coaches that have like a little bit of a salt and pepper look to them. Younger coaches, I don't know what it is. I think they kind of like get lost in the shuffle. But Todd McLellan's been around the league for a while, so I'm saying like, okay, he's gonna be a good thing for this Red Wings locker room, and he has because I showed this on a podcast before, but with Lalone, they were 13, 17, and 4, 30 points in 34 games, which is not good at all. And then you go to Todd McLellan, 26, 18, and 4, 56 points, 48 games, which is realistically pretty good. So I'm excited for the season for one reason only. I think that there's some young kids that are coming in the lineup. that has been announced just recently. The Red Wings have announced it. Their opening night roster, and then I'm intrigued by the way this team is going to play because I think Todd McLellan is going to be the biggest boost for this team. That's my opinion. And when we get to the prediction segment, that's going to be fun to talk about because I don't know if you have the same prediction I have, but I think the Red Wings are really going to surprise some people this year, and I think it's all based on. I think they did get better in goaltending. I know you don't think they really got better in goaltending, but we'll talk about it. And I think they're going to be a really good team. So we'll get to all that. But first things first, I think we got to hit on because we haven't hit on it, and people have been asking us, "Oh, when are you guys going to bring back the podcast?" Well, here's what happened. Okay, Cindy is a very busy person. She works in a very stressful environment, so we had to relieve some stress. Second of all, I added some stress.
Yes.
A puppy and a baby. So we're we're rolling in deep. So this is
Yeah.
why we're doing it. And there is a new announcement. Obviously, if you are new to the podcast, we are going to be doing 2 days a week. If Cindy can't do it, then I will. And there is a YouTube page for the podcast, so you can go on YouTube. I know a lot of people like the YouTube and they like to do that, so we'll
Yeah.
leave it for the people. We'll put the link on the page, and then that'll be it. But we haven't talked about the Fedorov retirement jersey ceremony. Now, I remember a podcast way long ago.
Many, many moons ago when we first started and we were just little baby podcasters.
Yeah, we were just learning. We were just learning the business.
Yeah.
You said that Fedorov would get his jersey retired, and
Yeah.
I said, "Hmm." And then we heard rumblings because we hear rumblings sometimes, and we will tell you on the podcast what the rumblings are. But
Yep.
they finally announced the Sergei Fedorov jersey retirement ceremony, and
Yeah.
I don't know about your thoughts, but I have my own thoughts on this. I think it's far overdue, far overdue. But I think that Fedorov is one of the best players that probably that dynasty era. I mean, I hear what McCarty says about him. I hear what Yzerman says about him. Draper says about him. I mean, the guy's got glowing reviews. And I gotta say this just out of spite. I love the latte Larrys that the Red Wings are pulling. The latte Larrys that the Red Wings
Latte
are pulling
Larry's.
because this is a spiteful jersey retirement. Because
Yeah.
if you remember what pissed Mike Ilitch off was when Sergei Fedorov got a contract offer from the Carolina Hurricanes, right?
Mhm.
And the Carolina Hurricanes were owned by Carmanos, and they're both two big millionaires in Michigan. So someone's got to swing their big stuff, and they got to figure out what's going on. But
Yep.
he tried to sign him to an offer sheet, and Mike Ilitch did not like that from Carmanos, so they stopped doing business together. But he's going to get his jersey retired on the night the Carolina Hurricanes come to LCA. I think it's fantastic. I think it's probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life because if there is a game that you would retire his jersey with, I think it'd either be Anaheim or Columbus or Carolina. So either three of those, cool. I'm cool with it.
Well, they certainly wanted to put an exclamation point on it, and they did. And so I think that was it. And, as you said, we hear the rumblings, unfortunately, that we have both been able to establish some relationships and to be able to hear some of those rumblings. And we do bring them to you first. So oftentimes you will hear them on this podcast before anywhere else. And sometimes people will be like, oh, how do you know that? And well, where's your source? And it's kind of like, well, do reporters reveal their sources? No, because then you don't get any information anymore. So a lot of what we hear on the condition of we do not reveal them. So I say, listen, because you never know what you're going to hear. But we could go on and on about all the different things that we've let our audience in on before anyone else. So that's been great. But yeah, they wanted to put an exclamation point on this. When I was had a conversation about this jersey retirement with my sources, they all pretty much said the same thing. And it wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. And it was a matter of that when was going to depend on a few different factors internally. And a lot of it was just kind of silliness, to be honest with you. A lot of it was the ego. A lot of it was all that kind of stuff that gets in the way of things that make sense. And this jersey retirement makes all the sense in the world for the reasons that you've said. And the people that I've talked to, some of the people you've mentioned, and then there's just been some others that just say, look, the guy was untouchable. You have to understand, at that time, and we've got a lot of great talent comes since then, maybe not in Detroit necessarily, but in the league, the Connor Bedards and all the Connors, right? The McDavids, the Bedards, all these amazing people. But Sergei Fedorov was really statistically and just pure raw talent, almost nearly untouchable during that era that he played. So, it was just, again, a matter of when. I think now is exactly the perfect time. I think they chose the perfect night to do it, to put that exclamation point on it. And I'm just so happy they finally did the right thing. They got over all the nonsense and did the right thing. I'll be very excited to see it.
Well, I want to play for this because if people didn't see the hype video that went along with it, because I think it was probably one of the best thing that the Red Wings social media has ever put together. But when you look at this, like, this is fantastically done. But I'll play it right now. Ah. Three cups in there.
In a single game. Behind the play, Sergei Fedorov, a shot. What people are saying about retiring the number of Sergei Fedorov.
You didn't hear his skates on the ice. He was just flying.
Is number 91 hitting the Little Caesars Arena rafters next?
So you get the gist. That's fantastically done. Now,
Well,
right.
and speaking of that, saying it's fantastically done, the reason why that's so well done is because the Wings media department has added a lot of new, fresh, young talent, just like they're adding on the ice. And that's why you're seeing such a tremendous increase in the quality. And I think just the creativeness of a lot of what they're putting out. And it's good stuff.
Yeah, they need to get the same creative mind for the Tigers, to be honest. But they follow the same logic as the Lions. The Lions have a social media department that is very spiteful because they will parade other podcasters and then use their bad takes against them in one of their TikToks. So it's fun to watch. But I thought that was well done by the Red Wings social media department. Like you said, they added young faces and creativity, and that's good because that was well done. It was the Corvette. Now, all we were missing was Anna Kournikova. That's all we were missing. That's all we were missing.
I love the license plate. I love that they showed
White Russian.
White Russian. That was great. I thought that was fantastic. I love it.
It was funny because
good time.
Every kid that grew up around the Fedorov era, I think they wanted a white pair of Nike skates. Now, I don't know if those kids got white pair of Nike skates because they were super, super expensive. Now, if you did, you were very, very lucky. But it was just, he had a pizzazz with them. And I think there's 3 players in Red Wings history that I could literally count on one hand, like 3 or 4 that I can count on one hand. Fedorov was just, he was a must watch, right? I thought as a defenseman, Nick Lidstrom was a must watch.
Yep, for sure.
And then the third person is the easiest person to name because he's going to get his name in the rafters pretty soon too. Pavel Datsyuk.
Right.
because he was a human highlight reel. Like he crossing over Logan Couture in San Jose where he made him look stupid. I was like, dude, this is insane. And then I remember they were doing a Red Wings weekly, and Trevor Thompson was trying to get the puck from Datsuk, and he was going he was going probably 15%, and he's still keeping the puck away from Thompson. I just thought it was amazing. So those were the three best players that I loved watching, and I think that the Red Wings need that kind of player coming forward, and I think that they will be getting a player like that. We will talk about that later, but.
Yeah.
Look, this is the 100th year of the Detroit Red Wings, the season preview. This is the Red Alert season preview. Here's what I do say. Yzerman, over the course of, I think, the last couple months, has soured a little bit of people. And I think he's kind of going full force into this youth movement that they have going. And the reason I say youth movement in Detroit is because they added Emmitt Finney, who was a 7th-round pick. Now we know Zetterberg was a 7th-round pick for the Red Wings, and that turned out really well. And people, I was talking to someone who was talking about Emmitt Finney, and he's watched a lot of him, and he said that he could be a potential game breaker. Now, we were talking about this on the podcast like last year. I said Yzerman needs that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick to come to fruition and be that breakout player, because he did it in Tampa Bay with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. And Braden Point was like a 5th-round pick. Kucherov was a 2nd-round pick. I didn't expect a 7th-round pick. Now, I might be shocked, but whatever I hear from these people that watch Emmitt Finney, they say he's well beyond his years. And I watched him in the preseason. I was giving him a little bit of love. I was like, this kid's pretty good. And I watched him some more, and then I went back and watched the one where he put the puck through his legs and passed it over to Brantse Nygard, who also made the team, MBN.
Yeah.
We can't put his name because his name is way too long. So we put his name in the graphic. We put his in the picture in the graphic. But I mean, I'm excited about the youth movement, and you know how I like Sandin Pellikka. I think he's gonna be a friggin' star. They call him ASP, but he's gonna be a star. I love it, Axel Sandin Pellikka, and I think this team is going to have a way, and I love that Yzerman didn't play favorites. You know, he could have kept Gustafsson on the team and Justin Hall. And if I had to see another year of Justin Hall, I would have lost my shit, because I don't think Justin Hall is that good. I think he's a nice player, nice guy. I hear he's a nice guy. I hear he's a really nice guy, but you're just not getting it done. You're not mean enough. You know, I need mean and tough. And I look at this 3rd line that they have, a 4th line. Look at that 4th line. Soderblom, Rasmussen, and Appleton. I think that line right there, man, that line right there is going to be an ass-kicking line. Not just physically, but they're going to put a lot of pressure on other teams, because Rasmussen's like 7'7". Soderblom's like 10'7".
All right.
A massive human being. And then Mason Appleton, he's basically a human bowling ball. So any team that has to go against that line, it's going to really take their wind out of them, because, I mean, you're talking about 2 tall guys that can possess the puck and everything. Not easy to contain. And you're talking about 2 of them on the ice at the same time with a human bowling ball and Mason Appleton. Good. I think that a lot of teams are going to really, that's the one that they're going to see, and they're going to be like, oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, when it comes to Justin Hall, I think when Steve Yzerman made that deal, it was a head scratcher for a lot of people. That we were always saying, like, are we missing something? Like, maybe Steve's seeing something we don't see. And I don't know what he was thinking there. I really don't. And I think a lot of other people were saying the same thing. One of the interesting things that I heard people saying was like, where did this Axel Sandin Pellikka guy come from? You know, nobody expected him to make the roster. And I was thinking to myself, well, if you've been listening to the Red Alert podcast for the last few years, you would know that Joe was talking about this guy. You've been a fan of ASP, I think 2 or 3 years. I mean, you've really had your eye on this kid. And so we had been talking about him for a while now. So it really wasn't a surprise to me. And I'm sure it wasn't a surprise to you either. I think one of the things that is great about these young guys coming up, first off, I think that Steve Yzerman, there's a couple things. One, I think that part of the reason why you didn't see a lot of holding on to these old allegiances or whatever goes on when they keep guys on the roster who probably should be set aside to go let some younger guys in, whatever dynamics are going on right there. I think that Todd McLellan put a stop to that. I really do. They needed somebody who would do that, and he did. And he basically said, look, it's coming to a point where people are losing patience, and this is a make or break. And even the New York Times called this a make or break kind of year for Steve Yzerman. And I think that to a certain extent that they could have been right. And so recognizing that, he said, all right, let's give these young guys a chance. I think he had a head coach who was on board with that idea. And I think that Steve knew he had to do something fast. He had to make the Yzer plan a reality. And he did that by bringing all this fresh young blood. So what's happened with that is that it's caused they've discovered some chemistry that they were lacking before. And Dylan Larkin has been quoted multiple times in various interviews and stuff like that, saying that the energy that these three young guys are bringing into the locker room, into just on these lines, they've been embraced by the veterans. You don't have this competition of, hey, this young guy's going to take my job. Now, some of these young guys did take some veteran jobs, but the vets who are left in the locker room are really excited about these guys. Dylan Larkin has said it. Patrick Kane has said that these guys have earned it every step of the way. So you've got not only are these guys getting accepted by veterans, they're getting respected by veterans. And that is going to be great for the locker room. It will help change the culture, which is something that we talk about all the time, the culture and the energy and just the chemistry and dynamics of that locker room. I think we're going to see that in points on the board when these guys get on the ice together.
Well, I look at it like this. I think Brantse Nygard is. I thought he came a little bit faster than I expected. But when I talked to someone, now I was a total sicko with Axel Sandin Pellikka.
Yes, you were. You were obsessed, Joe. It was like
I actually got a
romance times
so
100.
I'll let the people know. I got a VPN because I wanted to watch the Swedish Elite Hockey League, and you can only see it if you're in. Sometimes they only make Sweden only games or something like that. I was like, well, my location is Sweden, so let's go. Now I forgot to turn it off one day when I was going to ESPN, and I had a bunch of Swedish sports. I'm like, oh boy, it's not what I want.
But did you have a lot of Swedish women showing up on your feed?
Well, that was the plus right there. Because,
there you go, right?
Because the in Sweden, the sports center in there, I mean, I couldn't understand a lick of it, but I was like, this is nice. I like this. Even though the guys were like, they were good looking guys, I was like, this is like, I don't understand shit about what they're saying right now. Now I had the subtitles on, but they were talking. One of the guys was, I forget his name. I don't know, but one of the sports center guys was like, I actually seen Dean Pellikka. He's gonna go to the United States next year, and he's gonna beast out. I'm like,
right,
man, oh man. I'm like, this is great. But I watched a lot of him last couple of years, and I mean, last year for sure. And I watched him, and I was like, this kid's gonna be good. Now Nygard was on the same team, and I thought that kid could be really, really good, but I don't know when he's gonna come up. And sure as shit, he comes up this year. Now, I didn't think Emmitt Finney would be on the roster. And it's an interesting time for this team because there's a youth movement. And like you said, with McLellan talking about, it's an open competition and everything. I like that because you know who loves open competition and he's doing a damn good job as a coach? Dan Campbell. He loves competition. Like the better, the more competition, the better. Like Penn Isul versus Aiden Hutchinson, he loves it. Like he loves that competition. I think when you're going against that competition in practice every practice, you start to develop this chemistry and this grittiness. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing that was missing from the Red Wings the last couple of years, whether you believe it or not, was being tough to play against. Like I thought there's times last year, especially when Todd got, going and, I think February and January were once that he started to get going.
Yeah.
But for me, watching McLellan get this team going, like I was like, he needs a year. He really does, because he took over a shit show product from the loan. Thank you, Derek. And Derek, had this team playing soft Patsies type stuff. And I consider Derek Lalonde kind of like the Jim Caldwell of the Detroit Red Wings because he was too nice. Like, you can't have a too nice guy to be your coach. Like, I know Babcock's a total douchebag, but
Yeah.
the thing about Mike Babcock is good coach. I mean, he's a D-bag. You got to deal with that, but he's a good coach. And I think, Bowman, you look at all these, like Paul Maurice in Florida, like I'm pretty sure that guy has the most punchable face ever, but he's a good coach. Rod Brindamore with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Dude's a rock star. I don't want to cross him in the alley. I think he'd beat my ass, but he's a good coach and he's tough as hell. I think the Red Wings needed that toughness from a coach because that's exactly what they needed. And I thought it was interesting. He was on 97 on the ticket today, and he was saying that he wants them to play with speed. And he wants them to play fast. And he says that's the identity that I want. And I was like, that's really nice because you look at some of these teams in the NHL, the Florida Panthers, fast team. They're a fast team.
Yeah.
The Edmonton Oilers, fast team. Golden Knights, fast team. Like you have to be fast in this game. If you're slow, you better have some good shots. You better be like Ovechkin, because this game is way too fast paced now. It's like the Indy 500. Matter of fact, I bring this up because Ariana loves hockey because of the back and forth. She's like this. She's like, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of activity for her to watch.
Because she likes the dancing fruit, but I can't take the dancing fruit no more. I can tell you that.
Well, does she? At least it's not like veggie. Do you have Veggie Tales? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's
Dancing
called
fruit, or is this something new? Hey, at least you don't have. Does she do Baby Shark yet?
No, I don't want to do that.
Oh, wait for that one.
No, the dancing fruit's like a music, and there's like
Okay.
broccoli like dancing, and I'm like, oh my god, this is horrible. And then they have the fruit version. I'm like, this is terrible. I gotta get away from here. Like,
But she loves it, right?
She loves it. She's like, this
Hey,
is
look,
great.
before you go, don't go complaining about you having to watch dancing fruit and vegetables, because my kids grew up in an era, and everybody who's my age who's got kids the age of my kids will appreciate this. We had to deal, okay, with Barney. All right.
Oh god.
There's nothing worse than that. Barney, and there was some other weird thing. I mean, the Teletubbies. I mean, try explaining those to your kids. What are those?
What about
the hell out of me? I don't know what the hell they were.
No, I'm glad Ariana likes hockey because that's good for her.
Better.
She's got 17 years to make the U.S. national women's hockey team, but we'll get that, and we'll get on that another day. But
no pressure, Ariana.
The Canadians they do some weird shit too. Because when I was growing up, there was a show called Caillou, one of the worst shows ever. It came from Canada, worst show ever. It was a whiny kid, always crying to his mom. I'm like, this show is stupid. I never liked it. I liked Hey Arnold and Rocket Power and shit, but that was what I liked. But there's a youth movement in Detroit.
Give me the oldies but goodies show. Okay, give me Fred Flintstone. Give me the Jetsons. Give me Scooby Doo. Okay, that was good stuff. Looney Tunes, classic.
Oh, she likes Tom and Jerry. So we're moving in the right direction.
Now you're teaching her right. That's good. Tom and Jerry, classic. Yosemite Sam, classic. Daffy Duck, hysterical. Bugs Bunny. You can't go wrong there. So we'll get her straight. It's all good.
It's gonna be all. It's a process. It's a process, but it's a process in Detroit because this guy Yzerman, he ruffled a few feathers. And that's kind of what we're gonna get to right now, because he ruffled a little feathers. He said he wants cups, not playoffs, and I think we both agree. But his comments were taken a little bit out of line. Here's the full comment. It's a 2-minute clip, but here you go.
How much more pressure or urgency do you feel, especially this year, coming off a coach firing, to make the playoffs, to justify keeping your job? Do you feel that urgency and pressure? If you don't make the playoffs this year, Chris might make a change.
Well, Carlos, I see progress in the organization. I look at it differently than you look at it. You just want us to make the playoffs, which is fine. I'm not going to argue with you about that. I look at the young players coming into the organization. I look at the young players playing on the Detroit Red Wings today. I'm hopeful that maybe one or two of them at some point, if not at the start, get into our lineup here. So at some point during the season, and we continue to build a young core that eventually is here for a long time and competes on a regular basis to make the playoffs. So that's what we're trying to do. Chris and I have spoken, and going back to when he hired me, that is going to take a long time, and we're going to be patient, and we're going to be, allow our young players to develop. We're going to rely heavily on the draft, and hopefully over time, these young players that we draft turn into NHL players. So how many years it's supposed to take? I don't know. Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 10? Ultimately, it's ownership's decision when they feel that they're not happy with the direction of the club or the plan. That's their decision. But Chris and I have spoken about it, and he's understood the process and where we're at. And again, I'm not going to speak for him, but we're not completely tone deaf. Obviously, Carlos, we know they're at the expectations and the hopes for our fan base and for the media as well, but we'll continue with the process and look for opportunities, as I said, to expedite it, whether that's through trade or free agency, but we'll continue with doing what we have to do. And ultimately, my job is to do what's right for the organization, and I will continue to do that.
So that was from Champaign Athletics, because they did that video. And they did a great job doing the subtitles and everything. But I look at it like this, Cindy. There's two things I take away from that. I agree with the process, because you don't want to expedite the process and then come into this shit show where the Oilers are. Okay, they had the best player in hockey, Connor McDavid, and they screwed the pooch a couple times because their cap is in a living hell. And what the problem with that is, like, you can go out and get players and you can go out and spend money. That's fine. But if you spend money on guys like Justin Hall or JT Compher or Andrew Kopp, like, I know those are the people that the fan base doesn't like, right? When you go to free agency, how often is it you see a really franchise changing player? You really don't. And if they do, they usually go to, like, Mitch Marner wanted to go to Vegas because his wife liked Vegas. Okay, that's fine. Nick Ehlers, he wanted to play in a southern market. You're not gonna win there. A warm weather market, you're not gonna win there. Okay, so you weren't getting Ehlers and you weren't getting Marner. So those two were out of the question. So you want to overpay for some marginal player, or you can give the young kids a shot. And my feeling is, we watched the Lions and we watched the Tigers and we watched the Pistons, and you watch sports enough. If you're a Detroit fan or you're not a Detroit fan, youth wins. Like, you have to draft and develop these kids. And if you don't draft and develop the kids, next thing you know, you're like the Oilers. And I know they made 2 straight Stanley Cups, but have they won a cup? No, because they haven't had the goaltender, and they didn't have the money to get the goaltender last year. So that's kind of like why you play this, like, little, okay, we don't want to spend a lot of money. And it's not because Chris Illich is cheap or anything like that. I mean, he can be cheap, but the reality of the situation is you don't want to overspend to have a marginal player just to hype up the fan base. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, with all due respect to the captain, the goal, I understand his job and I understand his mission, and I get that. But at the same time, his job is to put butts in seats. His job is ultimately to produce a product that people are willing to buy, and that they're going to buy tickets, preferably season tickets. But they have to start putting butts in those seats. So you've got to give them a product that they're willing to watch. You got to give them a product that people can buy into. And when you draft players, or you're in this, I don't know if it's going to take 4 years, I don't know if it's going to take 10 years or whatever, the public's attention, and I can say this because I work with the public all the time, their attention span is very, very short. And they will come and go, and you need those people to loyally buy tickets. And the problem is that, in addition to not having an exciting team to watch until now, by the way, I think this is a totally different team. Totally different team.
Yes.
But the mistakes that the Wings were making in that regard, in addition to that, they were doing things that were alienating their season ticket holders. And if you talk to any of their longtime season ticket holders, they'll tell you. I know these are the people that are with you through thick and thin. You need to show them some love. And so, of course, the most love that you can show the fan base is icing a team that can win. Icing a team that even if they don't win cups, and I understand where he's coming from, but I will respectfully disagree. Look at Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell's attitude and his mindset is we're playing for the Super Bowl. That's what we're doing. We're not even looking to anything else. Everything else is just in the way. We just got to get through all that to get to the Super Bowl. Has he made the Super Bowl yet? No. But that's not the point. He has built helped to build an incredible fan base. They already had a great fan base, okay, that had been long suffering, as you know. But now all the new fans they've brought in, just because they haven't even made it to a Super Bowl, much less won one, but yet they're selling more. You can't touch a Detroit Lions ticket for less than $200-300, and you're in the bleeders. So the thing is that when they talk about building an organization, building a business, building a team, building excitement, you don't have to necessarily win cups to do that. I think just making the playoffs on a consistent basis is going to accomplish the same goal. And I'm going to say that I think, shoot for the moon, you're going to land in the stars somewhere. So there's no problem with having that goal of our goal is to win the Stanley Cup every year. But at the same time, some of these decisions you make, you've got to at least make yourself competitive. So you got something that the fan base can buy into. And quite frankly, just like the Lions were had a long suffering fan base. At this point, the Red Wings have a long suffering fan base because we got so used to making the playoffs for a decade, now going in a decade-long drought. It is time. It is time. So I think Steve recognizes that regardless of what he said, and he might have been spinning a little bit to try to spin out of that question or whatever, but I think he's recognized now's the time. It is a do or die season. The good news is that for the first time, I think we are seeing a completely different team. We are seeing year 2 of the Todd father, and I expect to see something very similar to year 2 of Dan Campbell. That's my expectation, just based on what I see so far and what I'm hearing. The level of excitement in the locker room for what is happening with a lot of these, these new guys making the roster, and with some of the depth they've brought in. This is what I'm seeing in this team, Joe, that I haven't seen in at least 5 years that we've really been doing this. We finally got some depth. We've kept saying we needed depth. You're right. We're going to talk about goaltending. I'm not sold on Gibson just yet. I have some reservations about that. But what I don't have reservations about, or what I can say is a legit change in the right direction, is the level of excitement I'm seeing out of the locker room and the amount of depth that we have not had. So those are 2 game changers there. And if we can nail the goaltending, Joe, I think we've got a serious contender. And I'm not being a hometown, fan kind of thing. I'm saying legitimately, you look at it objectively and you've got stacked talent. When was the last time you can say we've seen that?
I think they're going to be a problem in the East, and especially in the Atlantic. And I look at Florida and I go, okay, Florida has Barkov with an injury. That's a huge injury. That really is. You can't lose a player like that and continue to go on, because over the course of a season, you're going to have more injuries. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the same thing what happened to the Lions with Hutch. Like, he got hurt, and then next thing you know, more injuries happen, and you can only take so much. Like, every team has depth, right? The greatest teams have depth. But
that's right.
But when you go so far into the depth, sometimes you don't have enough depth. Like, you just don't, to compete for a Stanley Cup or a Super Bowl or NBA championship, World Series, whatever the case may be. So for me, I agree with what you're trying to say. Like, and there's people in the comments. There's one guy that says, and we're gonna get to the comments pretty soon. But one guy says, Those guys you mentioned were signed to fill gaps for a few years while kids developed and more kids got drafted. Why does everyone with the microphone and internet think they are experts on a subject? Steve has forgotten more hockey than you could ever know. Okay, let me just explain this to you, Dennis. Okay, no one's saying we know more hockey than Steve Yzerman. What we are trying to say is we're talking about the situation where he said progress on playoffs, and I agree with his sentiment. Cindy doesn't, but Cindy comes from a business angle because she was a former business owner, and she comes from a business angle of selling tickets. Now we know in hockey, in sports, money drives the product. So how do you drive the product? I think you were right, Cindy, about what you were saying about the season ticket holders being a little bit mad and upset for a variety of different reasons.
Right.
But for me, it does come down to a business sense too, because at what point are people going to make the decision saying, I don't get enough enjoyment out of this product, I'm going to go somewhere else? And it doesn't mean that they're going to leave the Red Wing fan base. It means that they're not going to buy tickets. And the season ticket allotment is one of the biggest things for a franchise. Like it's totally huge. Like the Lions have a wait list right now. They've never had a wait list. Never had a wait list. The Pistons, when they were good, they had a wait list too. Red Wings, that when you want to get to the point where you have a wait list, that's what City's bringing up. And these young kids could be the start of something great, and I think they could. But I love the team that it's built, because if you look at the team right now, like I showed it before, but you look at Finney, Larkin, Raymond. I like that line right there. I like Kane, Casper, and DeBrincat. I think you can't break those guys up. I think Casper's going to have a big year, by the way.
That second line is the bomb. It really is.
I think Casper is going to have a huge year. I think he's going to have a big year. Did you look at the third line comp for MBN? I think that's pretty has a little bit of upside. Soderblom, Rasmussen, Appleton. We already went through that. I think they're trees. I think they're going to be tough to play against. And if you don't play them the right way, you're going to get wore down. I think that fourth line is the key, because when you talk about hockey, you talk about the best teams wear down teams with their third and fourth line. That's just the way it goes. And the Florida Panthers do it the best. So do the Carolina Hurricanes, but for some reason last year their fourth line was dreadful. They couldn't even put the puck in the net. But I look at that and I go, okay, that's good. I think they have a really good shot, but I'm gonna look at the defense more. Sherratt and Seider, I'm not a big fan of that, but Evans and ASP, I like that. But I think the guy that's gonna have a big year, in my opinion, is Albert Johansson. I think he is gonna have the biggest year out of anybody. I think by the end of the year, people will be talking about Johansson, and he's gonna be on Seider's line as a pair, because he's going to do that good. I think Johansson or Evanson is going to jolt up the rankings, and that's going to make a stronger defense. So I'm excited about this team in the way, like the depth that you said, and it's going to be important to have the depth. Like that's just the most important part. So to Dennis in the comments, look, I don't know how to say this any nicer, but we don't know more than Steve. But
not many people do.
No, no one does. Well, there's not a lot of people that really do. But
not about hockey, right?
But when you're talking about filling gaps, like I understand that, but at the same time, like I think people in the fan base as fans are frustrated with the timing, and we went over a podcast ago how it does take time to get to a point where you can start putting in young kids and all that. Like we were talking about 8-10 years, and Kenny Holland said that a long time ago. But that's just where we're at. Like this, you have to get traction. And I don't think in the 100th year of the Detroit Red Wings, I don't think Chris Ilitch and I don't think Steve Yzerman want to have that stain on their record that they did not make the playoffs in their 100th year. And I'm going to go back to what Dylan Larkin put out there. Now, you remember at the trade deadline, they did not make a trade. This is what he said about the trade deadline.
You got to come up with wins, and I think especially in March, it was hard. That we didn't do anything, and then I felt the group kind of we didn't gain any momentum from the trade deadline, and
so that's all you need to hear right there. They didn't feel momentum from the trade deadline. Now I like this for one reason. I have one reason only. Only one person can say that, and it's Larkin. Period. Like he's the only person I could say. He's a captain, and he could challenge things that Yzerman says. But my thing about it was he put ownership on Yzerman, And then in the press conference with Yzerman and McLellan, they put ownership on Larkin. So there is now this ownership between the three key players of the organization. And I think that's the most important part. You talk about the great organizations of sports. There's always ownership. There's always, you do your job, I'll do mine, you do yours, but you make sure you do yours. Make no bones about it. You better do your job. But I gotta do
That's
mine.
right. Well, it provides accountability, and that's what you're talking about here. You're talking about they're all calling each other out to be accountable for the role that they fill in the organization and what they should be doing. So, I agree with you. There's some things that Larkin can say that nobody else can say. There's some things Stevie can say that nobody else can say. But certainly, when you were talking about that fourth line and how your third and fourth line wears teams down, that's their job. And I don't think you can point to almost a better fourth line that did that than the grind line. That's one of the things that made those championship teams so effective, is because that fourth line, that grind line, it did exactly that. It ground people down. It grinded, they ground it out, and they just wore them out. And so then when they put, their top six out there, they were already beat up. So that's their role. And, those guys understood that was their role. And I think these three guys do too. I think they're going to be great in that capacity. And I'm hoping to kind of see this reinvigoration of a grind line type of, we're going to beat you up that bad. Because, you said earlier, nobody was afraid of us last year. Nobody's been afraid of us for a few years.
No.
And I think this roster actually, in addition to the depth, is that we've actually got some players on there, and we got some combinations that people should be afraid of, because they can be very, very effective. So it'll be interesting to see how that is. Now, I'm a little concerned about that third pairing, and I know you're a lot higher on Johansson than I am right now. But I'm eager to see if that actually happens. That would be outstanding. But I'm okay with those four. I'm okay with the top two pair there. I think Seider is. I think Sherratt is kind of, he's on his way out. He's in the sunset of his career. So they're going to be looking for a replacement. And I think Johansson could certainly be that. I don't know if he's going to be dynamic this year, but I'm anxious to see if you're right, because I'd like to see that. What surprised me a little bit, and, going back to the forward group, what surprised me a little bit was that Finney ended up on the top line. I was a little bit surprised at that, but then I started reading more about what they talked about his speed and some of his skating. They said was just really impressive. And when you put it together with that, I'm looking at that top line going, damn, they are fast. That is a fast line. Larkin's fast, Finney's fast. And Raymond is fast, and some of these guys too have bullets of a shot. That's one of the things they were talking about with Nye. They said, man, Nye has got, not only is he good in those other areas, he's got smarts, he's got hockey smarts. They said the same thing about Finney, but also he's got a bullet of a shot. So when you were talking about guys having, a rocket of a shot, Nye is one of those guys. So one of the things that I'm picking up from a lot of what I'm reading, not only from what, I don't know if I put so much stock into what these sportscasters or reporters say. It's like, and they all got their agendas, but when you read about what other key players are saying about these guys, these young guys in their locker room, they're giving them a whole lot of high praise. And I don't think they're doing it just to pump them up. That might be it a little bit, but I think they genuinely respect what these guys are bringing to this roster. So, great skating, fast. When they talk about ASP, they talk about, his puck handling skills are great. And I'll tell you haven't put it up yet, but if you look at their power play units now with some of these additions, and as well as their PK, I think we're going to see improvement in some of those special teams that we knew we needed last year. That's the other thing that these guys bring too.
And I thought it was interesting because in the off season I was listening to a podcast, and it was a podcast with a Spittin' Chicklets, and they were talking to a guy, and he was like, they were talking about the Red Wings, and they were saying, the Red Wings, they could be so good, but they're just easy to play against because once you get past that first or second line and you get to the third and fourth line, you can wear them down. And that's exactly what they said. And that's exactly true. That's literally what it is. So you're looking to be tough, and you got to be better on the penalty kill, because if you allow the penalty kill to kill you, it will kill you. But it's just interesting because, the best preseason performers of the preseason, look at that: Larkin, Nygard, Raymond, and Finney. So you three of the best performers in the preseason were Red Wings. I mean, four. I almost said three, but four. So,
When was the last time that happened, Joe? Can you remember?
No, I can't remember where there was this much hype over a guy like Nygard and Finney and all that. But you expect Larkin to be good, but you don't expect like a rookie to play. And there's a couple rookies, Nygard and Finney, and then Lucas Raymond and Larkin were good, best of the preseason too. So I like what they're doing. And then I was talking to someone because we usually do that, but I was prepping for the podcast, and I got an interesting report about Nygard. So I was talking to this guy, and I was like, "Look, I know you watch a lot of Swedish Elite Hockey League more than I do, because I don't watch a lot of Swedish. I just watch Axel Sandin Pellikka, but he watched all the games of Nygard and Pellikka because he's a fan of that team.
Yeah,
and he's a scout he's a scout in the NHL. But he said this about Nygard. He says, Brantse Nygard brings a rare blend of speed, power, and precision. His shot, pure NHL, heavy, accurate, and lethal from anywhere in the zone. His shot is elite. Think about a young Adrian Kempe with shades of Gabriel Landeskog, strong on his skates, on his edges, relentless on the forecheck, and built for playoff hockey. Even in one of the top Europe's pro leagues, he's finding ways to contribute offensively, to drive contact, to demand respect from opponents. Insert him into a wing system, and you get a winger who can finish from the perimeter, crash net, and bring a hard-nosed edge every night. And we talk about it all the time on this podcast. Like we've been talking about for a while. We need one of those guys. Like we really need one of those hard-nosed guys. And if Finney is one of those guys, and Nygard is one of those guys, and that fourth line is one of those guys, we're in a good situation. So I love what they're doing, and I think him being top in points in the preseason, like when have you seen a young rookie do this? Like it's very rare you see a rookie do what he's doing. I mean, these were the top. I mean, look at these guys that he's along with. These are some of the better players in the NHL. Wyatt Johnson, Tage Thompson, Josh Norris, so Michigan native, Morgan Frost, who's Calgary. He was with the Flyers last year, and then Hendrix Lapierre, who turned it on last year. You got those guys, and he's up there. So I'm interested with Nygard. I think he's going to be a really good player for this team. And I think that this finally we have something to be excited about. I think there's a lot of fans in the fan base. They want this, these players that don't exist out there, and that's what I was trying to tell Dennis earlier. Like we're not telling them to go get Mitch Marner. Okay, we're not telling them to go get this guy. We're just telling them that you got to make the team better a little bit. So I like where they're heading. I think Nygard is going to be a huge piece to this puzzle, and every publication you read, from the Athletic to the New York Times to Sports Illustrated to Sportsnet, from Canada, TSN, or whatever the hell you get your hockey coverage, they all say the same thing about the Red Wings. They cannot put their hand on what they're going to do because there's so many variables of things that can change. The coaching could change a lot. The young players, who knows what you got in Finney? Who knows what you got in Nygard? Who knows what Casper does in year two? I mean, let's be honest. Like, do we really know? No. And that's that's the fun part about this team right now, is the unknown. Yeah. Because I thought it's kind of similar to the Lions a couple years ago. They had unknown in Derek Barnes. They had unknown in St. Brown. And you remember those podcasts that you were on the podcast. I said, I love that. I love that St. Brown guy and that Derek Barnes guy. And but they were unknowns. Like, they were virtually unknowns, and you didn't know what you were going to get. Well, St. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and that's kind of the thing that you're looking at. Like, can this guy take a jump up to the next step? Right? Can he be the next? Just be better than the guy he replaced. That's the key.
Well, and that's it. And I see the same parallels. And one of the things about Nygard that I really like, he reminds me of one of my favorite guys, my number 53, Moritz Seider. He's like the forward equivalent of Moritz Seider. He's got that same kind of energy. He's got that same kind of drive, that same kind of ambition. I think he's one of those guys that he wants to be one of the best. I mean, it's just unequivocal with him. And he's been playing with real men in a real league. And so I think his transition to the NHL will not be as significant as it would be for kids who are coming up not playing in that league. I think that it's going to make his transition to NHL intensity easier. It's still going to take him some time. It's still going to take these kids time to adjust. And Seider said the same thing. They're going to be nervous. It's going to take them time to adjust to the speed and intensity of the NHL. But if they've already been playing with grown men in a serious league, in a professional league, they're going to make that transition easier. So Nygard's got that advantage. And I think that that's going to play very well for the Red Wings. The other thing that you've mentioned a couple of times, and I don't think it can be understated, and that is the significance of the coaching change. The significance of that coaching change. I mean, you can have some of the best players in the world, and if your coach sucks, and if your coach is not on the same page with everybody else, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The coaching is critical. And one of the things that Dylan Larkin said, and I'm so bummed last several years I was at training camp so I could get kind of that first look every year. I didn't make it this year, sadly, and it's 30 minutes from my house. It's ridiculous. Maybe I was just looking for a reason to go up north all the time. I don't know. But I didn't see it this year. But here's what I read about it. What Dylan Larkin said is that training camp this year was different than any training camp he had been at. And one of the things he said that was so different was the amount of scrimmaging that they did as opposed to drills. And I can tell you for sure, and he didn't say as opposed to drills, but I can tell you because I've been there and I've watched it. And I see them taking these skilled professionals who are really, really good, and they don't need to practice drills. And you can tell they're getting frustrated. And I know for a fact because I was told by some of these sources that they were getting aggravated in years past, not this year, about why do they have us doing drills? Like, they're not opposed to doing it. They're not like prima donnas that are like, hey, I'm too good. I'm, Mr. So-and-so, so I shouldn't be doing drills. But they're like, this is a waste. This is a waste of our time here together. We should be figuring out how to play together. And instead of doing all this baby stuff. And I think that Todd McLellan recognized that, and his style, his approach, he's getting these guys ready to win their first game. He's getting them ready for tomorrow night. He's getting them ready to put points up fast and furious here in the beginning of the season, and hopefully be able to sustain that, consistency. Again, that's the key. Joe, are we going to have consistency? Because if they don't have consistency, we've seen it every year. They take that crash, man. They crash either right when they go to that first West Coast trip, or they crash right around November, December. And, or they crash right after the, what would used to be the All-Star break. So it's kind of like, what are we going to see here? Are we going to see the consistency? You're not going to be hitting the top of the mountain every time. You're not going to be on a winning streak all the time.
No.
But if you can have some baseline consistency, that's better. And then you have those peaks, you can sustain the valleys. That's going to get you to the postseason. It's numbers. It's no different than anything else that's a numeric equivalent, right? It takes so many points. We know what about it takes to make it to the playoffs, to make it to postseason.
Yeah.
You gotta make those points. It doesn't really matter how, but you can't do it when you have ups and, these significant ups and downs, because your ups aren't high enough. Your winning streaks are not high enough, especially in this division where it's going to be so tight. We saw it last season. We're going to see it again this season, because the talent and the skill level in this is the toughest division in the NHL, arguably. And you're going to see maybe the top 1 and 2 spots are going to kind of run away with it. But then after that, it's going to be, you can't afford to lose games. You can't. You're going to have a cushion built in really fast. And I think Todd McLellan understands that at a level at which maybe past coaches haven't, and he knows he's going to have this team not just ready to play, he's going to have them ready to win. And I think they've got a tremendous opportunity to do that tomorrow night and start, set the tone.
Yeah, well, I look at it like this, and we talked about it on last couple of years of podcasts, but with Derek Malone, why there was always October was good. November, December is where they crashed. And I said, like, I added up, and we were at 300 winning percentage in November, and then it went to a 400 winning percentage in December, and then they had the March collapse. So you're 3 months of the year, you're collapsing, you're playing under 500 hockey. I could tell you where you're going to go. You're not going to be playoffs, because if you have that inconsistency in your game, you're not going to make the playoffs. And going back to your point about the scrimmaging and everything, you always want to go back. You always want to go against the best, right? Like, I think, and anybody who's ever played sports or anybody who's been in a competitive environment, you've been in politics, you want to go against the best. Like, you don't want to get something for free. You want to you want to earn it. You want to see how you stack up so you could fix some things, right? I think that's where those hockey players are standing, because I look at it like from this perspective. Every coach, there's coaches and players that came from Philadelphia Eagles, right? There's guys that came from this team. They come to Detroit and they say, Dan Campbell runs a tough practice, and you go, and they go, well, how? And he goes, they're physical, and they're gonna get you ready for the game. He goes, as a player, I love it because I got to go against the best of the best, and I got to rework my craft. He goes, so many times, I think it was Avante Maddox, who was from Detroit. He goes, so many times in pro sports, you get these coaches that never want to give you a chance to go one-on-one against someone. He goes, I want to go one-on-one against St. Brown. I want to go one-on-one against Jamison Williams.
For sure.
I'm tying it into hockey because, Patrick Kane wants to go against Seider. Edmondson wants to go against Patrick Kane. Like, you don't think that's going to help you along the way? Like, Patrick Kane's he's one of the best American players of all time. Right. Raymond's talented. DeBrincat, these guys, get him used to playing these guys. And I thought the practices, like hearing Larkin say in the training camp, it rubbed me the wrong way about how Derek Malone got that big of a leash. Like, I wasn't a big fan of Derek Malone. I wasn't a big fan of Derek Malone in terms of his hockey.
Oh, I know.
Power. But
he only comes number 2 up against your other favorite, Matt Patricia.
Oh, man. Oh, the boob. I love the that guy was such a dummy. And it's just the same way. Like, you're so stuck in your ways. Like, Matt Patricia for the Lions, he was stuck in his ways. He tried to be like Belichick, okay? And it seemed like Derek Malone tried to be like John Cooper, and you're not John Cooper, and you don't have to roster like those guys. Yeah. So screw you. But for McLellan to come in here and just on the fly, they get better, and they did get better, and that's why I'm leaning that they're going to have a better season than they had last year. Now I want to get to a couple of these comments because there's people commenting left and right. This is actually good.
Great.
Don, he left a couple of comments, but we'll start it. This was early in the podcast. Marty said gritty line. Eric Miller said very well deserved at one point, mid-90s. It was about Fedorov. I agree with that. Don says my only problem relying on the draft. This was about the draft. He says that keep making changes in draft picks with disrupt chemistry and gelling of the Lions. I could see that. I'm wondering what the situation is with the goaltending. We'll talk about it. This is going to be me and Cindy are going to be sprawling next. Oh my God. It's going to be terrible.
Going to be a slugfest when we start talking about this goaltender situation.
Someone said, I agree with you, Cindy. My frustration is not because they are not winning cups. It's because they aren't even winning in the regular season. I think Don is the fan. Like, this is your fan base for the Detroit Red Wings. Like, they're frustrated that you're not winning in the regular season. Like, this is a different type of fan base. Like, this is not like Columbus. This is not like what do you name another dumbass hockey team? This is not the Mammoth, okay, in Utah. This is the Detroit Red Wings. Like, the 100 years It matters. The history matters. Wearing that wing wheel matters. He laughed about the Todd Father line. Now we both coined this. We should really copyright that boy. Is anyone interested in Stuart Skinner? No, because I don't even think the Stanley Cup Stanley Cup runner-ups are interested in Stuart Skinner.
No.
So, and then
have heard absolutely nothing, Don, on Stuart Skinner.
And he got a high cap hit. It's insane. Like, you're not getting nothing. You might as well stick with Gibson this year, because I think Trey Augustine's going to be coming next year. Now, people are upset because I'll give you a close to this. People are upset because Trey Augustine isn't coming this year. I said, look, let him learn in Michigan State. He's going to have some fun at Michigan State. He's going to grow some, he's going to be with some good players up at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Go win a natty. He's won a lot of things. I think that'd be great. But Augustine, he's looking like he's better than Kosa. That's my opinion.
And I never thought I'd hear you say that, because you were a huge Kosa fan.
Yeah, but I watched this Augustine kid, and I watched him in the World Juniors, and he won a gold medal. And I was like, man, this kid's he's got something different, man. He's not the stereotypical tall goaltender like some of these NHL teams like. Like, they like the 6'6" goaltender, like on stilts, where he's like king. But
yeah, right.
Augustine kind of, what he reminds me of? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. He reminds me of a more athletic, more fast Chris Osgood.
Really?
Yes. He's a smaller goalie in terms of, like, a lot of the NHL goalies want to be like 6'6", 6'5", 6'4".
Yeah.
He's a smaller goalie, but he plays big. He plays big in the net. And if you watch Michigan State, just go watch Michigan State. They're going to be playing. They're playing this weekend too. But college hockey is starting. Go watch Michigan State. And if you live near East Lansing, go get a ticket, because they got some good players up at Michigan State. That Porter Malone kid is really good. But if you try to get tickets to that Michigan State Penn State game that they're going to have, that's going to be a great game with Gab McKenna that's coming from Penn State. Here's this one that says, the fact that Stevie has forgotten more than we know doesn't buy him a free pass. Agreed, Don. See, Don's a smart one. Don is a smart one.
Of course he's smart. He's agreeing with me. Don, you're my man. I love it.
Free agents have and are turning down offers simply because we aren't making the playoffs. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I think,
no doubt.
I think I have something on that. No, I think I lost it. But basically, there was 32 Thoughts, the thing where they were talking about the reason Ehlers didn't want to come to Detroit was because he didn't see a really good chance to make the playoffs. So you got to change that narrative if you want to get the players that you need to get. And then Don pushed back on my fourth line of the Red Wings. He said the fourth line of the Florida scores goals. I look at Rasmussen, I look at Soderblom, I think they can score goals. And Appleton, sneaky underrated. Logan says, in your opinion, watch. One of our three rookies has a better chance of scoring in their NHL debut tomorrow night against Montreal. Now,
I agree.
Now, okay, this is an interesting question, because we could post this. Who are you putting money on? If you were putting a bet down, right? Who would you put money on to score tomorrow's goal? Let's see what we can do.
I'm gonna go with MBN.
Okay. Now, I would say maybe Emmitt Finney, because he's playing on that top line. If he is playing on that top line, that could be really, really good. So if we look at tomorrow, we look at the NHL. Let's see tomorrow. Oh, it is out. Okay, cool. Let's see anytime goal scorer props. Ooh, okay, go to. If you put MBN, oh boy, this could win you a lot of money, Cindy. You gotta. $100 can win you $700. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, if you did Emmitt Finney and you did $100, $100 is gonna win you $400. So we could win some coin if we kind of like put $100 on each, and then we can split it. Anyways,
maybe we should do that.
I'm telling you right now, I do like Emmitt Finney, and I like Brantse Nygard, and I think I was looking at the odds because it's interesting about tomorrow's game, but they have the highest guy that was Emmitt Finney. He's higher than JT Compher, Andrew Kopp, Elmer Soderblom, Nygard, Seider, Pellikka. He's up there, so they know something that we don't. You got to keep your eye on Vegas.
That's right.
Don says the the Western Conference is stacked. And speaking of tomorrow, I
Yeah.
think the Red Wings are favored. Yes, they are favored at -130. So that's
Okay.
pretty good.
Yeah.
They like that. Alan says the kids made the open right roster could make or break the team with a full go. Todd should give the edge to 3-4 seed. I can agree with that. Logan says, I'll be at the game tomorrow. I can't wait to see the new center ice logo and what with the new jersey. It's going to be sweet. Now, I do like that new jersey. Did you see that? Now, I saw something from the Red Wings. They posted this. I'll put it up on the screen, but this is probably one of my favorite things about this this Centennial jersey. Now, I think this is Larkin. I'm gonna put it up on the screen because I think this is what people should look at. These gloves. They are just fantastic. I love those gloves. Old school gloves, man. Logan's going to the game.
Look at that.
I love those old school gloves. They look great. And then if you go to like what the jersey looks like that jersey is pretty cool. Like I gotta admit that's a pretty cool jersey, and it's gonna be cool to watch those because Boston had a good jersey, and I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, I'm very interested to see those jerseys on the ice for sure.
A lot of the retired players, a lot of the old guys,
Don says Finney.
they love those jerseys. They think they're sick.
And then he goes, Don says, I like the wing wheel on the helmets from last year's outdoor game. I do like that. That was a good look too with the Columbus game. Now, I didn't like the Columbus result, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Logan's goes Emmitt Finney too. Personally, he looked dynamic in preseason. All right, we got to put some money on Emmitt Finney. Let's do it. So here's the thing. So we said this is a make or break it year. We got a couple more things to get to. But this is a make or break it year for the Red Wings in terms of best case and worst case. Yeah. The Athletic did an article and they said the best case is 96 points, which could get you in the playoffs. Gibson turns back the clock. Seider and Raymond become legit cornerstones. And in a very tough Atlantic division, they finally returned to the playoffs. Worst case, 71 points, and that would be the bottom of the NHL, to be honest. I don't see him having 71 points.
No.
But I think I've been reading a lot about this team, okay? From the Athletic, the TSN, the Sportsnet, the ESPN, like they're all over the place. Like they think they're either going to be good, they think they're going to be great, they think they're going to be ass. Like, and I was looking at the rankings. There's a guy on Twitter, he did a ranking of every publication where they rank, and it was insane. Like the Red Wings score was insane because it was like 23rd, 15th, 8th, 9th, 10th. 31st. We're like, what the hell is going on? Like, but that's what this team is, and it's. I think my best case, in my opinion, is where they do make the playoffs and they're the second seed in the division. I think that's the best case, and for that to happen, you're gonna have to have someone step up, whether it's Casper, whether it's Nygard, whether it's Emmitt Finney, or maybe a guy like Soderblom blossoms, or maybe it's a guy like Johansson, like I said, or maybe it's Evanson that takes a step up. You don't know. Or maybe Gibson does turn back the clock. I mean, whatever, we'll see. But I think the best case is them being high, second or third in the division. I think the worst case is they miss the playoffs again. I think that's the worst case scenario. Like them being in the bottom of the division would be a total train wreck, and I think that you would see changes really coming. I really do think that would happen, especially in Steve Yzerman seat. I think he would move up to because that's been rumored, and I think that they're going to move a GM in there eventually so he can step up to president of hockey operations and everything. But someone's going to take that GM seat, and I don't think Stevie Y wants to move to that seat as I don't
think he's ready to give it up yet.
No, I don't think he wants to give it up. I think he wants to make the playoffs and then move into that seat.
Possibly.
I think because he doesn't look like he totally failed. And Yzerman, he's a total wisecracker.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to leave the stain that he failed. So even if he went to the president of hockey operations, so people would still be like, oh, he failed, blah, blah, blah. And then the next GM would take over and use his players. and go to a cup final or something, and he would still look good, but people would still look at that GM and be like, I don't know, man. I think he struggled. But yeah, I look at this, and we were talking about John Gibson, and the trade was interesting because, he 29 games last year, 277 goals against, save percentage of 911. And you look at the goals saved above expected. The guy we gave up, Mrazek, fourth worst in the NHL, and John Gibson was 13th best. Now, here's the issue. Oh, that was a full trade. They got a second round pick and a fourth round pick. And that's not another case. Here's the issue with Gibson, and I'll lay this out here for you, and I'll lay the grenade, and we could just
Go ahead, Joe. Let it go,
um.
man.
So the problem with Gibson is he has to stay healthy. I think that's the most important thing. And I'm not. This is not going to be good. Because I don't want to rely on Jack Campbell because I don't think Costa's ready. And I think Cam Talbot is an older goalie, so you can't have him play a majority of the games. So Jack Campbell will be up at some point because eventually one of the goaltenders is going to get hurt. But if Costa is ready, maybe he sees time up here. But Gibson has to work because we've talked about it forever, Cindy, on this podcast. Goaltending has not been good enough for the Red Wings. It just has not been good enough. And Alex Lyon was ass last year. What was it? A couple years ago, James Reimer, and then the year before, I forget who. It was so bad, I want to forget it.
It was just a parade of mediocre at best goalies. That's what you're talking
And we were
about.
parading them out there, and it was like one would get hot, and then one would get cold, and then both of them would get cold at the same time. But I like John Gibson as a goaltender. I think he's going to be really good, but he has to stay healthy. Like, that's the most important thing. And if he can stay healthy, maybe you get a good return on it. But man, tying yourself to John Gibson. Now, this is interesting because goaltending is a need in the NHL. Okay, we saw the Stanley Cup runner-up. They need goaltending in Edmonton, and for God's sake, they went to Utah's backup as their goaltender. So it tells you how bad goaltending is in the NHL when the Stanley Cup runner-up is going to the Utah Mammoths backup. Okay,
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, I like the kid that they got,
Yeah.
but he's no great shakes either. Like, come on, like this is. I mean, even okay, look at the God dang, look at the Maple Leafs. Okay, they don't got a great goaltender. I think the Florida Panthers have the best goaltender in the division, but you look at like the Maple Leafs. Okay, I don't think they have a great goaltender. The Lightning, they obviously have a good goaltender. Vasilevsky's a star.
Yeah.
Buffalo, no. Montreal, no. Ottawa. I mean, if you could say the guy that they have from Boston that we wanted, you could say he's pretty good, but is he top 10 goaltender in NHL? No. So, I mean, I look around the NHL and there's such a need for goaltending. Like, the teams that have the good goaltending, they're keeping on it because they're like, we ain't losing this guy because if we lose this guy, who are we replacing him with? Like, that's just the reality. So, I look around the NHL and there's not many Hellebucks or Shesterkins or anything like that. There's a bunch of guys, and that's why you got to be so good in front of those guys. So whoever is the goaltender, they got to be better in the penalty kill and they got to be better in the defense because you look around the league, like unless Costa comes up and he dominates, or Augustine comes up next year and dominates, they're gonna need defenders in front of them to be pretty good because that's how you win in the NHL. You look around the NHL, there's, like I said, not many good goaltenders.
Well, Joe, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was very unsanitary of you, but you did, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Here's where I'm worried, and it's in net for that reason. So we talked about all the depth that we've gotten together in the rest of the roster, but where we don't have depth is in goaltending, and if Gibson doesn't stay healthy, we don't have a reliable backup. This is not an Osgood Hasek situation. Okay. It's not a Vernon Osgood situation. It's not. And I'm worried about that because should John Gibson get hurt, if he gets out, what are we going to do then? And when he gets hurt, that's the other thing. Hopefully he doesn't. However, I just don't feel comfortable that we have. First off, I'm not sure how John Gibson's going to do. Generally speaking, I have not heard how he's gelling. I haven't heard too much about that. I've heard a lot about the forward group. There's a lot of excitement there. I have not heard anything bad about Gibson, but I haven't heard anything like, hey, yeah, the guy's fitting right in and, he gets the culture and all that. And maybe he does. I don't know. And I just haven't heard it. So I'm not sure if he's going to be, a square peg in a round hole situation, or if he's going to meld right in, he's going to gel, everything's going to be fine. And then if that's the case, fantastic. But let's hope to God he doesn't get hurt. So, so that is my primary concern. Also, in the fact that we really don't have another a real reliable backup. Cam Talbot is capable, but is he going to be able to be what we need him to be at any given point in the season? I haven't seen that yet. So I've got some concerns there for sure.
Yeah, I think John Gibson, this is going to be an interesting year for him because if he can stay healthy, that's good. But they need someone to step up and goal, and they need the defense to be good in front of them, especially the penalty kill. Like that's the major one. Yep. They're not good on the penalty kill last year, and that was one of their bugaboos. I mean, you had totally ass teams scoring power play goals. Like when you get to a point where the Utah Mammoth, because I like the Mammoth, they almost made the playoffs, but they scored 4 power play goals against you in March. Like that's not good enough. Like you'll lose a game every time, being that bad on the penalty kill. So I think it's going to be interesting. You're going to get a good glimpse of John Gibson in game 1 because he is going to be starting. So I think the best case for them is, Gibson does good. I think the worst case is if the bottom does fall out, it's going to be in the goaltending. It is.
Yep.
The goaltending has to be better. It cannot be any worse than it was. I mean, God forbid if it's anything worse than it was, we're going to be in a world of hurt. But
well, then just forget about it. You can forget about postseason. It's just not going to happen. But when you're talking best and worst case scenario, I mean, if we were to put points on it, I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think that the best case scenario is the Wings, getting to 100 points. I would not be surprised if they do. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you do have these 3 young guys up there, not to mention the other folks that are looking to make, then you've got, of course, Patrick Kane, it's a done deal. Like Dylan Larkin, that's a done deal. You don't have to question those, but there's other guys that still have to kind of prove themselves that they belong in that roster. But these 3 young guys that are coming up, they have just a fire. They want to, I don't think they didn't want to just make the roster. They want to make a statement. And I think that all of them have that mindset. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be very aggressive. They're going to want to get their hands on the puck. They're going to want to get it in net any chance they get. So I think we have a real shot at hitting 100 points, which would probably put us right where you were talking about, Joe, which is, second position. So that's what I'm looking at. Worst case scenario, I'm way on the over of the 71. I think that's very pessimistic. I think there's just too much talent and too much desire. And that's another key thing that I haven't seen. And one of the things that you take a risk with a lot of veterans, when they're in the sunset of their careers, they may not have that passion and that drive that they once did. And it's kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm going to do my job, but I'm not going out of my way kind of a thing. I know why I'm here. I'm here to mentor these other people. They understand that, but at the same time, you're not seeing that same drive. And I think we've seen that with veteran after veteran after veteran that's been brought in over the last couple of years, whether they've been there for as kind of placeholders or not. They don't have that drive. And so now I think you've got a roster where you've got some real motivation there. And so I think you're going to see definitely higher point totals than 71. I think the worst case scenario, I'm going to go out on the record here and say, I think your worst case scenario is like 84.
Yeah. I think this is going to be an interesting year in the Eastern Conference, though, because I think the Atlantic Division is going to it's going to beat every team up in the division. I do think that's going to be the case because Buffalo, I think, could be better than they were last year. I think Ottawa could be better. Montreal is going to be good. This is a good test to get out of the gauntlet. And I mean, I look at it like this. did you see the schedule that they have in the first month is brutal.
Yeah.
Look at the schedule. They're gonna be playing the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow. They play Toronto on Saturday. Good game, 2 original 6 teams. You go to Toronto on Monday at 4:00. So it's a 4:00 game. That's a wild one. 7:00 against the Florida Panthers on Wednesday. Then you'll play the
Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Then you go Oilers, Buffalo, Islanders, Blues again, and then you're going on the Western road trip. So I look at this, man, and I this is a tough schedule to start out with. You're going to learn a lot about this team in the first month.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I think that's the most important part. Like, they're going to learn a lot about these guys in the first month. And I love this schedule because it's going to set them up for possible success, in my opinion. So I think 87 points is a low. I think 97 could be the high. Because I just think that they're going to beat each other up in the Atlantic Division. I don't think it's going to be. I think Florida might come back to the pack because Barkov getting injured is such a huge injury for them. I think the Bruins are in a rebuild. They're going to stink. We don't know what the Maple Leafs are going to do because they lost Mitch Marner. I mean, they lost a lot of points out of their lineup. I mean, Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, but how much longer can they stick together?
Well, in Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay of even last season is not the Tampa Bay that you saw win the Stanley Cup.
So we're seeing a division that is a complete. We don't know what the hell we're going to get. Yeah. Like, the Atlantic Division is going to be tough because Florida is going to be the top team, obviously, because they're defending Stanley Cup champion. You missing Barkov is probably one of the worst injuries that you could have. He's a great two-way player, and then as you go through the season, like we talked about earlier, you're gonna have injuries, and more injuries are gonna pop up. So you don't want to get injured right now. There's no injury. That's not good. So I think this Atlantic Division is gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be really rough, and I think there's gonna be surprises all over the place. I really do. So
I agree with you on the schedule. By the way, I was excited to see this schedule for so many reasons. You're getting 2 of their big Achilles heels kind of get out of the way right away. You are going to learn a lot about them because it's going to test them. And I think, again, God bless the Todd father, because I think he sees this too. And he's like, I got to have these guys ready to go. They have to be contenders right out of the gate. And if they can prove to themselves that they are contenders right out of the gate, going up against some of the toughest competition that they're going to see, plus being challenged with that West Coast road trip, which is always difficult. And if they can be successful within the first month up against what their schedule is presenting to them, that is going to build a tremendous amount of confidence that can carry them through some of the most difficult parts of their season historically, which has been like your November, December decline. So I think that this sets them up beautifully. I think any other team would look at this schedule and say, oh shit, they would be like, oh man, not good news. But for the Detroit Red Wings, I think this is very good news. I think it will allow them also, because of the level of competition that they're going to be facing here in the first month, it's going to allow Todd McLellan to recognize the changes that are going to have to be made earlier, the better. So I think it is only going to make this team better and give them a better chance of making the postseason than any other scenario that could possibly come up with them in terms of the schedule. So I was really excited to see it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And they haven't announced a starter for Montreal. So Logan was asking about that. It could be Sam Montable, or it could be Dubes. I love that name, Dubes. But either one, they had sub 3 goals against, so it's going to be a good game tomorrow. Don says your 100 points is a bit high, and I looked at the standings last year. The Red Wings had 86 points, so they were 14 away from 100. Could they make a 14-point adjustment? Perhaps, but even the Florida Panthers didn't have 100 points; they had 98. So that's what I'm talking. That's the issue. But Maple Leafs had 100 points; they had 115 or something, and then the Lightning had 102 last year. So again, this is all fruition, but we're in the last part of the podcast because we we went a little long on the season preview, but it's good for you guys. But what do you expect out of this team this year, Cindy? And then I'll give mine, and then we'll give our prediction if they're gonna make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, I expect higher point totals than we've seen in the last 5 years. And maybe John's right. Maybe we won't see 100, but I'm optimistic. So, but I think Joe said his high was 97. So I expect higher point totals than we've ever seen before. I think we can expect to see, I think the whole tone of the team is going to be much different than we've seen in the past. I think you're going to see a lot more aggressive play. I know we had moments of it, and whenever you do see kind of that killer instinct, people get excited because they're like, yeah, that's us. That's who we are. And I believe that the Red Wings, for the first time since probably the good old days, I think you're going to see them develop an identity, and that's what they've been missing. And you're going to see players that are going to buy in and rally around that identity. And so I think that's going to translate into higher points that we've seen before. Those are some of the key things I'm expecting to see that have been different from past.
Yeah, I'm expecting a little bit the same in terms of what they've been able to do. First of all, I expect Todd Father and Todd McLellan to really get this team and really make it his own. That's what I expect. And I think a team that's under him will be a good team. I think that they're going to be a lot stronger. I think they'll be tougher to play against. I think just because he took over midseason, I mean, it's rough for any head coach to take over midseason and try to make a team and get into the playoffs. It's really rough. I mean, we've seen it with the Blues that one year where they won a cup with a coach that just came in there, but it's very rare. And obviously there's a coach bump, but at the same time, you better have the team that's built for that. And I didn't think the Red Wings were built for that last year. Justin Hall behind the defense. That defense was a little bit leaky. Penalty kill. You can't really fix that midseason. I mean, those guys are your guys, and you could try to every different player and on the penalty kill, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work. So I look at the penalty kill, and I think that's the most important part that they have to fix. Goaltending has to be good, but we look at this season. This is going to be a very interesting. Who's going to step up? I think that's the most important question that I have right there is who's going to step up? Is it going to be a Casper? Is it going to be a Lucas Raymond that makes the next step, or Seider, Edvinsson, or Johansson, or whoever the case may be? Someone's going to step up, and we're not really privy to that information because they haven't played yet. So it's going to be interesting to see who that guy is. It could be Nygard, or it could be Finney, or it could be Nate Danielson that's not on the roster. You don't know. This is a very, very weird situation. Like, I think other teams that are doing season previews around the league are going, okay, we know that if you're doing a Florida Panthers podcast, you're like, well, we got Kachuk. Okay, cool. They got some good guys, Reinhardt, Bennett. Okay, cool. But it's just you get to this point of the year, and especially like Montreal and Detroit and Buffalo, like there's unknowns that they don't know. Like, you really don't know about those teams, and they can go one or two ways, either really good or really bad. So that's the way I look at that. And I think Toronto is the same way because they're like, we lost a lot of production in our lineup, and we have to replace that. So I think a lot of teams in NHL are dealing with the whole uncertainty, unless you're a team like, I don't know, Florida still has uncertainty with the Barkov injury, but I just look at that. But I think they're going to be a better team this year, Cindy. I think they're going to make the playoffs. What do you say?
I think they're going to make. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and I'll make another prediction here and go on the record for this. I think that one of these rookies. I don't know if it's one of these three, but I think we are going to see one of our rookies take home a trophy this year, just like Mo Seider did. I don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know who's going to end up where, but I think we're going to end up with some trophy players.
It sucks that Casper's not eligible for the Calder because he's not a rookie no more, technically.
Right. I know.
But I do see someone making that change. So it'll be interesting to see
they're
what
definitely going to make the finals, and I think you're going to see, to your point, when you say someone's going to step up, I think we're going to see more than someone stepping up. I think you're going to see contributions from more than just one. Significant contributions.
It would be nice to have two people in the, like, if you got five votes for a top of the Calder, that could be interesting, but that's what it is. But Logan said Logan says last season he came in midway. He had a bad team to start, but now he has a full season. Obviously, yeah, exactly. He says, "Can you go over tomorrow's lineup if you didn't already?" So tomorrow's lineup, I have what they did in practice, but we don't know the lineups tomorrow. But this is how they lined up in practice: Finney, Larkin. They don't know who the third the third pair is going to be. It could be Gustafsson, it could be JBD, John Docker, Hamnick, or Johansson. I think Johansson will get in there, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. The goaltender is going to be Mr. Gibson. So there's a lot of things that are going to be changed during the game, but I think that's going to be interesting. But this is going to be an interesting year, Cindy, and we'll break it down throughout the year. Thank you guys for watching. We'll post our predictions on the page, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Talking more Detroit Ravens hockey here on the Red Alert Podcast.
See you then.